Ferda Roznova never expected his father's words to become a death sentence. One day, his father announced that his engagement with Archduke Valdrova had been decided. To nobles, those words meant only one thing: death. Ferda had two choices: refuse and be cast out, or accept and eventually die by the dragon's hands. But the truth was, Ferda never wanted power. He only wanted to be accepted by his family. As the sickly, illegitimate third son of the Roznova knight family, he was always looked down on. Everyone mocked him because his training showed no progress, but Ferda kept trying, hoping his father would one day acknowledge him. However, after his brother mocked him and called him a worthless bastard, Ferda finally realized his family would never accept him. So he left the Roznova family, and as he walked away without anyone saying goodbye, his sadness turned into hatred. That day, Ferda awakened as a mage. Even though he started late and was weaker than everyone else, he gained a unique red mana that grew stronger through hatred. The more he hated, the stronger he became. Using his hatred as fuel, Ferda reached the sixth circle and returned to destroy the Roznova family. He made the servants turn against each other, caused his brothers to kill one another, and forced his father to watch the downfall of everything he protected. But even after revenge was complete, Ferda still wasn't satisfied. His hatred wanted more. After killing countless people, the world hunted him down. But Ferda survived and eventually became an eighth circle archmage. Wanting to reach the realm of a demigod, he needed one final ingredient: the heart of a red dragon. And that dragon was the same woman he was supposed to marry, Archduke Valdrova. Ferda went to kill her, calling her a tyrant and blaming her for ruining his life. But Valdrova revealed that she had never harmed humanity and asked why he hated her so much. Then, instead of fighting back, she pierced her own chest and gave him her heart, saying that if her existence caused him suffering, then at least she wanted her death to bring him happiness. Ferda couldn't understand why she would sacrifice herself, but he took the heart and absorbed it, believing he would finally become a demigod. However, instead of power, he fell into a mysterious place where he felt Valdrova's emotions. He saw her endless loneliness, her despair, and the pain she carried for centuries. And for the first time, Ferda realized his hatred was nothing compared to hers. He finally understood that he never wanted revenge or power. All he wanted was a family and a peaceful life. The same thing Valdrova wished for. But it was already too late. She was dead by his own hands. With nothing left, Ferda used the only spell a ninth circle mage could cast: wish. When he opened his eyes, he was back at the moment his father announced his engagement with Valdrova. But this time, Ferda didn't reject it. He accepted, because this time, he wasn't going to kill the red dragon. He was going to make her happy. When Ferda's older brother heard that he had accepted the engagement with Archduke Valdrova, he immediately started making fun of him. Thinking Ferda would be crying in fear, he decided to visit him and put him back in his place. But when he entered Ferda's room, he found him calmly preparing to leave instead of breaking down. Ferda looked at him and said he had already told all the servants to wait outside. So why did he come here? His brother then mocked him and asked if he even understood what marrying the Archduke meant. Ferda calmly replied that he knew exactly what it meant. It meant getting the hell out of the Roznova family. Hearing that, his brother was left speechless for a moment, but he quickly continued mocking him and brought up Valdrova's previous fiancée. He said that even a brilliant and young noble ended up beaten into a pulp by her. Then he laughed and asked if Ferda really believed he could survive, but Ferda gave him a reply that made him furious. Instead of being scared, Ferda pointed out his brother's own pathetic behavior. His brother couldn't say anything back, but Ferda had already decided to leave. As he was preparing to depart, one of the servants suddenly started crying. However, Ferda already knew that servant's true face from his previous life. Without looking back, he left the Roznova family behind and headed toward the forest where Valdrova lived. Surprisingly, Ferda felt calm. There was no hatred controlling him and no thirst for killing like before. For the first time, he was able to enjoy a peaceful feeling. Eventually, Ferda reached the forest surrounding the Archduke's territory. Even his driver refused to go any farther because of his fear of the red dragon. Left alone, Ferda waited until a maid appeared to pick him up. She introduced herself and told him to follow her to the castle. As they walked, Ferda remembered the truth about this land. The eastern side of the continent was where the human world collided with the land of demons, and protecting humanity from that threat was the red dragon, Archduke Valdrova. But despite protecting everyone, she was still feared and called the demon dragon. dragon. Before they could continue any further, a monster suddenly attacked them, but the maid instantly showed her skill and killed the monster without any difficulty. Ferda was impressed by her strength and asked how much longer it would take to reach the castle. He even asked if she could fly him there to arrive faster. But to his surprise, the maid immediately refused. The reason was because she wasn't an ordinary human. She was dragon spawn with powerful abilities. After finally arriving at the mansion, the maid opened the gate but stopped Ferda outside. She told him to wait there and warned him that he was not suitable for her lady. After some time, she returned with Valdrova's message. Instead of simply speaking, she delivered it in an ancient style with a dramatic performance. Valdrova gave Ferda many reasons to leave. If he was being forced into this engagement, he could return home. If he wanted money, she would provide it. If he wanted something else, she would give him a reason to walk away. But Ferda refused every offer and still declared that he wanted to marry Valdrova. The maid became furious after hearing his answer. She told Ferda that she already knew how humans were. They were greedy and shameless. Just like the first prince who came here trying to use her lady. That man was killed by Valdrova because of his intentions. Then the maid stepped on Ferda and released dragon fear. A terrifying pressure overwhelmed him, but Ferda somehow endured it. He told her that he wasn't here for power or benefits. He had no hidden motive and only wanted to marry Valdrova. He wasn't another useless fool trying to take advantage of her. The maid returned and explained Ferda's message to Valdrova. Although she exaggerated his words in a ridiculous way, Valdrova became interested in him. When the maid described Ferda's appearance, she first called him ugly, but after thinking about it, she admitted that he could actually be considered good-looking. More importantly, he was able to meet her gaze and withstand her dragon fear. For the first time in a long while, the red dragon felt happy. Soon, the maid returned to Ferda and brought him inside the mansion. She prepared a room for him and told him that he would stay there as a guest until the marriage. However, he had only 1 month to prove that he was worthy of standing beside Valdrova. Ferda accepted without hesitation, because this time he needed to become strong enough to stand beside the red dragon. But one question still remained in his mind. Why was such a powerful maid absent when Valdrova died by his own hands in his previous life? Ferda began training inside his room, trying to improve himself before the marriage. The maid came to check on his progress and asked if he had achieved anything yet, but Ferda calmly replied that it would happen soon. Just then, loud noises suddenly echoed from outside, making Ferda wonder what was happening. The maid casually told him that it was Valdrova killing monsters. Hearing that, Ferda immediately wanted to see it. But the maid warned him not to go because he would probably soil his pants after seeing her true form. However, Ferda insisted, so the maid had no choice but to take him there. She carried him through the sky and dropped him directly near the battlefield. And what Ferda saw completely changed his view of the red dragon. Valdrova was fighting against countless monsters and tearing them apart with overwhelming power. These monsters were said to be strong enough to wipe out humanity, but against the red dragon they couldn't even resist. Then Valdrova released a terrifying dragon roar that left Ferda completely paralyzed. At that moment, he finally saw the true form of his future partner, but instead of being afraid, Ferda started smiling. Rather than fearing for his life, he became excited after seeing her power. The maid was left speechless, wondering what kind of person he was. While everyone else saw a terrifying monster, Ferda saw a powerful and knightly figure. He thought the red dragon was incredibly cool. As Ferda watched Valdrova, his red mana started reacting. In his previous life, this power would have driven him into madness, but this time, things were different. Thinking about Valdrova, Ferda calmed the violent red mana inside him. He promised himself that he would never repeat his past mistakes again. When the maid entered his room later, she was shocked by what she saw. Ferda had already created his first magic circle in such a short time. Even she couldn't believe how quickly he had progressed. Then Ferda asked her to show him a proper training ground. The maid took him there without hesitation. When Ferda arrived, he was surprised by how well the place was maintained. The training ground was in perfect condition, showing how carefully the maid looked after it. Ferda then explained that he wanted to practice mana efficiency. The maid became confused because dragons were naturally born with enormous mana. They never needed techniques like that. Curious, she asked Ferda to show her what he meant. Ferda activated his red circle and focused on controlling his mana. Normally, his emotions and intense feelings increased the power of his red mana. But this time, he controlled those emotions instead of letting them control him. A sphere of red mana formed in his hand. Then Ferda fired it toward the targets with perfect accuracy. The maid was completely surprised by his precision and control. She had never seen a human manipulate mana like this before. before. Later, she told Valdrova everything that happened. But Valdrova didn't fully understand how impressive Ferda's achievement was. Since she wasn't familiar with the outside world, she asked the maid to explain it. The maid described everything from his speed to his flawless control. She explained that no human could normally reach such a level without making countless mistakes. Yet Ferda achieved it almost perfectly. According to her, only that pain-loving pervert could do something like this. As Valdrova listened, she slowly began trusting Ferda. For the first time, someone had approached her without fear or greed. But the maid was still worried. She feared that another human would betray her master's trust and leave another scar on her heart. And because of that, she decided that Ferda needed to be tested.